and welcome. This is Padma from Moving Archetypes. According to the Meriam Webster dictionary, the word of the year for 2023 is authentic. In this video, we're going to explore how authenticity is an integral part of an archetypal cosmos, what it means in terms of archetypes, and how we can excavate our authenticity and express and manifest it in our everyday lives. But before I proceed, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your comments. And if you like this video, please share it with others who may also enjoy the content. According to the dictionary, authenticity or authentic means something that is not an imitation. So we might say, for example, that this is an authentic painting by a famous artist. So therefore, it's not a fake. Authenticity also means something that is real, that is inherent, that is innate to one's nature. So, for example, we say that somebody is being themselves, someone is being their authentic selves, or somebody is being themselves, as opposed to they're trying to imitate somebody else or be what they are not. And all of these meanings or nuances of authenticity is applicable to the way in which authenticity is expressed in the archetypal domain. However, authenticity for an archetypal tradition pertains to our primordiality. This is our elemental nature, who we are in our primordial expression. A primordial expression is how we express ourselves when our experience is of being within nature and being a part of nature. So just like everything else in nature, like the trees or the plants, the soil, the waters, they are all expressions of nature. So when we say nature, what we mean is the diversity of the expressions of nature around us. And of these expressions, we are also a part. We participate in nature. And this particular experience is our primordial expression or our primordial nature. One of the greatest expositions on authenticity is the teaching of the Deity Krishna in the poem, the Divine Song, or the Bhagavad Gita. This particular exposition holds a lot of intelligence about in what circumstances do we seek, or does that inquiry into authenticity emerge? What is this authenticity? What is the guidance into this authenticity? And how is it related to our everyday action and to our being in the world? One of the most important things that emerges is that authenticity has nothing to do with ideologies, with narratives, with philosophies. So it is not something that is external to us. It is not a recipe that is given by someone else and that we simply have to manifest or imitate. Because when we say authenticity is not an imitation, it is also not an illustration or imitation of any narratives around us. And I am saying this because this is how it is in the archetypal domain. Of course, it is different when we use it in a dictionary meaning in all of our other discourses or other realities. But in the archetypal domain, it has nothing to do with any narratives or any story. So it is not really related to personality or philosophies or right and wrong ways of being. Neither does it deny all that. It is simply something other. This primordiality only emerges, or the authenticity or the inquiry into primordiality only emerges under certain circumstances. And again, it's the Bhagavad Gita that can show us what are the circumstances where we turn towards the quest for our own authenticity. So for those who don't know, the Bhagavad Gita is the teaching that the deity Krishna gives to the archetypal warrior Arjuna, who is his dear friend. For Arjuna, Krishna is his mentor, his teacher, his friend, philosopher. And they are in this moment where there is a battle that is going on in Arjuna's family between two groups of cousins. In the battle, Arjuna leads one side, and he's facing this other side. The teaching happens just at the commencement of this seminal battle, where Arjuna loses his heart. The reason that he loses his heart is not actually the battle that is in front of him, but it is because of the battle raging in his own heart. It is the battle of ideologies, of what is good and what is wrong, what is the right thing to do, which philosophy should he follow, should he renounce, should he fight, should he make peace, should he negotiate. All these, what is the right way to go politically, what is the right way to go for society, what is the right way to go for himself as an individual. All of these different narratives and ideologies are battling within him. And this is what saps his energy, creates disorder, chaos, grief, and he falls to his knees in front of Krishna saying, I don't know what to do. It is at this moment that Krishna begins his teaching to Arjuna, which is not really giving him a solution to the problem, but it invites Arjuna into an inquiry into his own nature, innate nature, into his own primordiality, into his own authenticity. So it's important how this moment where we come to something intractable, when there are all these different options, none of which actually provide any clarity. That is the soil where we turn towards the quest into our own authenticity. Sometimes we don't turn, even this, we may come across these moments in our life and we may avoid them because it is a very terrifying moment, as you saw from the example of Arjuna, where he is terrified, he's grief-stricken, he is in sorrow. And sometimes we escape these moments. But if we can bear, if we like a warrior can bring our ferocity and our fortitude to turn towards that authenticity, this is exactly the soil in which that inquiry births. And then what is this inquiry into our authenticity, which I say is that inquiry into our primordiality. And Krishna says that the primordial is what is elemental, what is nature both outside and within us. It is to participate in this big movement of nature, which is about coming into being and dissolving, the emergence and the ending, birth and death, all of these movements which are always in flow. It is always changing and moving, and it is in flow. And the expression that aligns with this flow of nature, this movement of nature, Krishna calls it swabhava, a beautiful word because it means the expression of the self. But that self is the primordial self. And expression means that authenticity is something that is only experienced through action and expression. It is not a theory, it is not something abstract, it is not a story, but it is something that must be excavated and expressed in the moment. In the experiencing is where we taste that authenticity. And this is where, in practical life, we see that it is not simply a matter of having a set script about our authenticity and having to just meet life with this set script. I am such and such a person, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and then I will just apply this to any situation I come across in my life. Whereas here, authenticity depends very much on the reality that we are inhabiting, both within us and what is external to us. So it is not a set script. It is a constant attending to that primordial movement within us. What is it that we can express or act? How do we move in a way that is harmonious with the bigger arc of the movement of nature itself, and not simply trapped in the ideologies or the narratives or the stories or any of the scripts that are around us. This doesn't mean that we deny those, because in the encounter, we are encountering there is an interplay. We are encountering these narratives. This is not a way of escaping it or denying it or avoiding it. Rather, it is actually a way of encountering it without being trapped in it, where we are not able to see the everythingness of that reality. When we buy into a particular narrative, it completely narrows what is happening in front of us. But what the authenticity, that expression of authenticity, or that position or that beingness that is connected to our authenticity allows us to do, is to be able to encounter the circumstances with the utmost openness, with the openness to that everythingness, to an infinite possibilities. So Arjuna's question to Krishna was, what should I do? I don't know what to do. What should I do? Krishna wasn't providing an answer, this is what you should do. Rather, Krishna said, I invite you to consider the question, who am I? And that question, who am I, is not a question that we must answer, but that in that question, we come into the connection with our primordiality. In that question is its expression. Is that manifestation and expression which is in harmony with the movement of nature around us. So this authenticity is a personal, intimate movement. It is a very private inquiry, and it has nothing to do with being affirmed by something outside of us. We are not asking for somebody to come and tell us, give us a certificate, oh, I see you're authentic. It's not about that. This is a completely self-affirming inquiry. When we taste that primordiality, we know that that is our authenticity. That comes entirely from within. That validation, if there is any, if we feel at that moment that it is necessary, comes entirely from within us. Let me share an example from my personal life about my experience with authenticity and its interplay with what was going on outside of me. Many years ago, when I was still working as a professional dancer and a choreographer, I made this large work for the opening of a dance festival. I was living in the Netherlands at that time, and this was a work that was used many dancers. I think we had about 30 to 40 dancers and musicians, and it was designed to be a spectacle inspired by Bollywood. It was a beautiful work. I thoroughly enjoyed making it. It was quite different to what I would normally do. My work usually tends to be more about archetypes and the exploration of that realm. But this was a work that was commissioned for a special occasion, and I wanted to try something different. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it remains one of my favorite works. But after the work was premiered, there was interest from a producer to mount this work, or to remount this work as a large-scale musical. Of course, this is an incredible opportunity for any artist to break into the commercial arena, to have someone produce a musical that will have a life of many years. It would travel internationally, even in terms of the finances of it. An artist receives royalties from it. So it is an incredible achievement. It's an incredible offer. It is what many artists dream of. And when I heard about this offer, when I was offered this, I was obviously at first completely taken with this, and this is what I wanted to do. But as I considered it more, I began to feel that what was driving me towards it was all these externalities of fame, of a large-scale production, of making a lot of money. And these things, I'm not saying these things are unimportant, but those were the factors that seemed attractive. And what was disturbing, what was creating that unease within me was that this was not the way in which I wanted to work. It was really something I did as a one-off fun thing to do. But the main thrust of my work, my research, my inquiry in my work lay in a completely different arena. And I felt like this would take many years of my life. I would have to travel around. I would have to repeat myself. This work would be performed again and again and again. It would be what I have already done, but scaled many times over. And I would have to keep doing this. And it would be forever something that would take a big chunk of my life. I was afraid it would define me. And that felt disconnected to my authenticity. And I can tell you that my authenticity was a whisper. The loud voices of everybody around me and of my own self was, take it up, take it up. This is such a golden opportunity. You can't not do it. And there was only this whisper that was saying, is this really what is your authentic expression? Is this really your authentic journey? Somehow I decided to go with this whisper because, like Arjuna, I felt like this battle within, despite the fact that it was a whisper, the battle within was sapping me, was not giving me that confidence to go with the big voices. And so I decided not to take up the offer. Of course, this created a lot of furor around me and within me. I was questioning myself, I was second-guessing myself, and I remember someone telling me, rather in a very disappointed tone, that he felt that he thought that I was professional and that I had actually disappointed him in this decision, that he felt like I did not take my career seriously. These were devastating words. But through it all, what gave me the courage, what gave me the validation was that my inner conflict died down. I didn't have a conflict raging within me. Now I had to just deal with what was outside of me. It was like Arjuna, where in the end he decided to fight because his energy wasn't being sapped by his inner conflict. It was the conflict within himself that was actually sapping his energy. So sometimes the question is not so much even about what you do, but it is a question about who am I when I am doing it. And maybe at a different point in my life, I may have gone and done that musical because that would have aligned with who I was at that moment. And this is where I say that authenticity is not a set script, a set definition of who we are that we can simply apply to any situation, but that it is about excavating, it is about inquiring, it is about expressing who we are in that moment, in those circumstances, both within and without. Another important association of authenticity is with beauty. Now, beauty is an extremely difficult word to to use in the times in which we live. Beauty has been hijacked by narratives of duality where it is opposed to ugliness. We think of beauty with particular standards, benchmarks, and beauty becomes something completely external. It becomes about living up to certain standards, certain narratives, certain values, and it has nothing to do with unconditional beauty. So I really want to clarify what beauty is in this archetypal context. When we speak of beauty, authenticity, beauty is connected to the poetic quality of authenticity. When something is primordial, something is connected to nature, to the elemental expressions of nature, beauty is inherent in nature. When we look at nature, when we look at the poetry of the trees, the poetry of the wind, of a thunderstorm, of a volcanic eruption, there is unconditional beauty everywhere. It isn't about whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, but that everything in nature has beauty as its essence. And this is the beauty that is also within us. Beauty is also our essence, just as it is an essence of everything in nature. We can easily say that nature is beautiful. Well, we are also, in this primordial sense of authenticity, we are part of that nature, and therefore beauty is also our essence. One of the beautiful ways in which this is expressed in archetypal dance is as this dancer or a woman who is sitting in the privacy of her room and adorning herself. She holds the mirror and she looks at the mirror, and she is gently and carefully, lovingly, with great joy, putting her jewelry one by one, drawing her eyes, putting flowers in her hair and bangles. This adornment is not to please anyone. This is completely something of itself. And so this sense of adornment was not an adornment that was because we have to look a particular way. It had nothing to do with appearance. Rather, it was a celebration of the beauty that we are, simply because we are an expression of nature. Sometimes in little villages in India, we see a tree that's just outside the village or along a street. People go and wrap a sari around the tree, put some jewelry and flowers, and they worship this tree as a goddess. That's the kind of adornment that I'm speaking of here. This adornment is simply that all we are doing is recognizing the beauty that is already there as our essence, the essence of the tree, and all we do is we bring it out, we recognize it, we celebrate it, we worship it. And that is the adornment that is expressed in this dance, where it's happening in this quietude of this woman's room, where she is sitting by herself and enjoying this adornment of the beauty that she is. So this beauty, this unconditional beauty, is part of the poetry of authenticity, because authenticity cannot be a narrative or an ideology or a script. It is a poetic expression, and it is an archetypal expression because it is multidimensional. Because when we go into this inquiry into authenticity and its expression, it is something that is very intimate to us. It is unique to us. Just as when we look at nature, every tree is unique. No one tree is like another tree. But in its uniqueness, there is also something universal about it. And this polarity, this coexistence of that unique intimacy and the universality is why it is an archetypal intelligence. Because in our narratives of duality, it is impossible for that uniqueness and universality to coexist. But here, in this experience of the depth of our uniqueness, that primordial essence where we are unique, is when we immediately in that moment experience that sensation of universality, which connects us to everything in nature, to nature's consciousness, and to that movement, that primordial movement of nature itself. The last thing I want to say about primordiality is that it must be expressed. Because it is not a thought, it is not an ideology, it is not a set technique. It is only when we manifest that it becomes real and it becomes an expression. And that is also why these archetypal traditions are always embodied. And dance was a very central aspect of these traditions. Or martial arts is another modality which is very central to many archetypal traditions. It is when we embody that authenticity becomes an experiential truth. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, or in this poetic text, Krishna says that even he, as a divine manifestation, even Krishna must act and express so long as he is embodied. So as embodied beings, as we live in this material reality, something becomes material and real only when we express and manifest our authenticity. And in this manifesting is when that internal conflict that rages within us and that we ignore at our own peril. And when we ignore it, it saps us of our energy and so much of our inspiration and so much of those possibilities of poetic and beauteous expression. So it is in manifesting that authenticity that we experience the beauty of nature, that we perceive the beauty of nature. When we say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, this is that beauty, this is that archetypal expression of primordiality, poetry, beauty, authenticity that becomes real in its expression and action in the world. This is my last video for 2023. So before I go, I want to wish you a joyous festive season and a very happy new year in 2024. Thank you for your support and for your interest in my work this year. I'm going to take a short break, so please subscribe and press the bell icon, and that way you will know when I post my next video. I look forward very much to the honor of your company next year.